We live in a world where noise is mistaken for confidence, where loudness is often confused with strength, where manipulation hides beneath the surface of charm. And we, in our quiet suffering, try to navigate this ocean of unrest, surrounded by people who drain us, use us, diminish us. But here's a truth many fear to say out loud. We are not meant to fight toxic people head-on. We are meant to become so untouchable, so inwardly fortified, that they can no longer breathe in our atmosphere. They avoid us not because we've pushed them away, but because they cannot stand the silence we embody. The silence that does not beg for approval. The silence that is not moved by provocation. The silence that comes from discipline, self-control, and a will that bows to no insult. We are not their mirror. We are their end. And to understand how, we must journey into a place most people fear to enter. A place where power comes not from domination, but from detachment. A place where the soul becomes too still for the chaos to latch onto.
Chapter 1. They feed on reaction. We feed on reflection. Toxic people are parasites of attention. They crave your reaction, not your reason. Their currency is control, and their method is emotional manipulation. They provoke to see what moves you. But a person who has trained their soul, who has made peace with solitude, with insult, with adversity, becomes too still to be stirred. As the philosopher Epictetus once said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. This means something revolutionary. The insult is not in the words spoken, but in the weakness of your reception. So ask yourself, why do their words pierce you? Why do their schemes succeed? Because you have not yet tamed the inner fire. Because your sense of peace still depends on things outside of your control. A person walking the path of true strength learns to shift the focus, not outward, but inward. Toxic people find no playground in a soul that does not react. Like snakes that sense no heat, they slither away, confused, denied of the drama they seek. Chapter 2. The stillness that intimidates. Stillness is not emptiness, it is power, concentrated. When we walk into a room without the need to be seen, without the urge to explain, justify, or dominate, we carry the rarest force known to mankind: self-possession. This intimidates toxic people more than confrontation ever could, because the truly toxic cannot manipulate what they cannot read. They prey on patterns of anxiety, insecurity, emotional volatility. But stillness is unreadable. Stillness is divine. Seneca reminds us, he who is brave is free. And bravery in our age does not always look like battle. It often looks like emotional sovereignty, the ability to feel without being ruled by feelings, to walk through chaos, carrying our inner world untouched. This is the kind of soul that becomes a desert to the thirsty manipulator. There is nothing for them to feed on. No drama, no confession, no dependence, no breakdowns to use against us. They don't leave because we fought them. They leave because they can no longer find an entry point. Chapter 3. Starve their need for power. Toxic people are not merely annoying. They're architects of subtle warfare, masters at crafting confusion and placing guilt upon your shoulders for the storm they themselves created. But all their games depend on one foundational flaw in you: the need to be seen as good by them. If you do not need their approval, if you are not afraid of being misunderstood, if you do not respond when they twist the narrative, then you have become invisible to them. This is not invisibility of presence. This is invisibility of ego, the thing they are trying to reach. Do you see? When the ego is fed by validation, it becomes a slave to those who give it. But when the ego is dissolved by discipline, it becomes a fortress. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been harmed." In this lies the Stoic weapon, not in attack, but in refusal. Refusal to engage, refusal to be pulled into emotional labyrinths. This refusal is not passive, it is not weakness, it is power, cloaked in restraint, and they fear it. Chapter 4: The Fortress of Inner Wealth. Why do toxic people seek us out in the first place? Because they sense lack, not necessarily of money or status, but of inner wealth. They come to take from those who do not yet know what they truly possess. They thrive on people who seek meaning in others' opinions. But once we stop outsourcing our worth, once we build our sense of value on the unshakable ground of virtue, wisdom, and reason, then we become unstealable. This is why the Stoics trained the mind as one would train the body, not for performance, but for permanence. What does this mean? It means we practice hardship, we embrace silence, we confront our shadows, we strip away dependence, expectation, entitlement, until all that remains is a soul too full to be filled by anyone else. Then, and only then, the toxic flee. Because we are no longer prey, we are no longer hosts, we are sovereign terrain.
Chapter 5: A life that does not echo their drama. The Stoics believed that virtue was the only true good, that fame, power, wealth, and even health were secondary, indifferent. Now think about this. What happens when you meet a person who is no longer moved by status, no longer threatened by gossip, no longer addicted to image? You meet a mirror that reflects your own emptiness. This is what the toxic see when they meet someone grounded in virtue. A life that does not mirror their values. A heart that does not respond to bait. A mind that cannot be trapped in gossip. So, they run. Not because you expelled them, but because you embody the one thing they cannot comprehend. A life based on principle, not performance. To walk the Stoic path is not to become cold. It is to become so whole that no poison can find an opening. You do not need revenge. You do not need validation. You do not need to explain your calm. Your presence will say enough. Your silence will say more. And your discipline, that daily, tireless practice of fortitude, will become the storm they cannot survive. Let them go. Let them avoid you. Because what they are truly avoiding is the death of their own illusion. Chapter 6: The world inside you must be governed first. Before a toxic person ever enters your life, they pass through your gates. Not the ones outside, but the ones within. It is not their manipulation that gains power. It is your lack of rule over your own mind that allows them in. You see, the fortress is not breached from outside walls,
but from within the citadel. We live in a time where most people neglect their own minds. They polish their appearances, rehearse their words, and sharpen their cleverness, but leave the seat of reason, the throne of sovereignty, completely unguarded. And toxic people? They don't conquer, they wander, aimlessly, and enter the unguarded palace. They enter us because we have left the gate open. But the one who rules himself is not easily entered. As Epictetus once reminded his students, no man is free who is not master of himself. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being prepared. Prepared to withstand, to observe, and to remain unmoved, even when provoked by the arrows of blame, seduction, guilt, or flattery. So we ask ourselves every day, have I fortified my mind today? Have I trained my thoughts not to chase every noise that knocks at the gate? If not, then we remain vulnerable. But if yes, then we become the still mountain. And toxic people, they do not climb what does not tremble. Chapter 7. The daily training of a fortress soul. Now, how do we build such an inner empire? Not in one moment, not in a grand awakening, but in daily, deliberate, disciplined confrontation with the self. The Stoics, from Marcus Aurelius in his palace to Epictetus in his modest school, practiced what we now ignore, training the soul like an athlete trains the body. Their practices were not lofty metaphors. They were hard routines, brutal honesty, self-confrontation, morning drills of reflection, evening audits of integrity. Let's make this clear. Toxic people are not the problem. The real enemy is our untrained emotional reactivity. So we begin. 1. Morning premeditation of trouble. Marcus Aurelius began his day anticipating that he would encounter liars, gossips, manipulators, and selfish people. He did this not to be cynical, but to be ready. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He continues, not with despair, but with calm. None of them can hurt me. This is not weakness. This is clarity. It is the mental rehearsal of sovereignty. Do we do this? Or do we wake up hoping the world will be kind and collapse when it isn't? 2. Midday detachment training. When provoked, do not answer instantly. The next time someone disrespects you, betrays you, or plays psychological games, don't speak, don't reply, don't react. Observe. See their tactic for what it is. It's a mirror test. They want to see if they can pull you in. So we train ourselves to create the space between the insult and the impulse. Seneca spoke of this space as our salvation. No man was wise by chance. And wisdom lives in that moment where we pause and let the heat pass us through like wind. 3. Evening audit of soul. The day ends. The battle is over. Did we stand tall, or did we fall into the traps? We sit with ourselves, alone, no music, no screens, and we ask, where did I betray my own peace today? Where did I let someone inside who should have remained outside? Where was I disturbed by things not worth my energy? Not with guilt, not with shame, but with precision, with the cold discipline of a warrior reviewing their form. This is how we grow sharp. This is how we become unreadable to those who prey on weakness.
Chapter 8. The detachment that makes you dangerous. Let's be honest. Why do toxic people return to the same targets? Because we care too much. We care about being liked. We care about being validated. We care about what they'll say about us. We care about not being misunderstood. And in caring, we bleed. But a man or woman who has removed the hooks, who no longer depends on the opinions of those beneath their values, becomes dangerous. Not aggressive, not violent, but unreachable. That is the true Stoic power. Indifference to things outside your control. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Do you understand the depth of this? Once we no longer need their approval, we rob them of their leverage. They cannot guilt us. They cannot bait us. They cannot confuse us with twisted narratives because we are no longer emotionally invested in their illusions. This kind of detachment is not apathy. It is clarity. And it burns like fire to those who manipulate through emotion. Chapter 9. The aura of integrity that repels shadows. Let's look deeper. There's something else at play. Something mystical even. It is not just silence or detachment that makes them avoid us. It is integrity. Toxic people are allergic to it. Why? Because integrity cannot be manipulated. A person of integrity will not play the game. A person of integrity will not hide truth for convenience. A person of integrity, even in silence, radiates judgment to the false. It's not what you say, it's what you embody. And when you walk into a room carrying a life of discipline, truth, and restraint, the fakes tremble. Because your presence reminds them of the life they refuse to build. As Seneca said, a gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. We have been through trials. We have been polished, and now we shine. Not with loudness, but with still power. This power repels them. Toxic people are spiritual cowards, and integrity is their death. Chapter 10. The unspoken standard that reshapes your world. It is not enough to avoid the toxic. We must raise our standards so high, so principled, so strong that they cannot even survive in our presence. This does not come from confrontation. It comes from becoming so internally developed that the wrong people feel out of place around us, and they leave. Not because we asked, but because we evolved. This is the path. This is the training. This is the life we now choose, not of revenge, not of bitterness, but of inaccessibility to corruption. We are not here to change others. We are here to transform ourselves into such firm, disciplined, luminous beings that toxicity has no place to hide. Chapter 11. Their power dies when you no longer perform. Let's speak of the game. It's not always direct. Toxic people do not wear signs or shout warnings. They use something far more effective: performance pressure. They want you to perform for their affection. They want you to explain yourself to earn their approval. They want you to prove your worth. They make you feel like your peace depends on their permission. And once you take that bait, you're dancing on their stage. But let us be clear, we owe no performance to those who cannot comprehend silence. The philosopher Epictetus said, "It is not things themselves that disturb us,
but our opinions about them. We are disturbed not by the toxic person, but by the belief that we must convince them, that we must fix things, that we must explain ourselves to the one who thrives on misunderstanding us. No. Let us walk away from that stage. Because the moment we stop dancing, their illusion crumbles.
Chapter 12. Let them starve from your absence. There's a special kind of discipline, one that few talk about, because it's hard, cold, and deeply misunderstood. It's the discipline of absence. You see, the toxic thrive when you're around, when you respond, when you plead, when you stay just long enough for them to pull you back in. But the soul that has matured, the one who has tasted freedom and refused to go back, leaves. Not with dramatic farewells, not with final messages or burned bridges, just silence. And in that silence, they starve. Because for the first time, they are left with their own echoes. Let's remember the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius again. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy, not to become loud, not to become cruel, but to become gone. When your life becomes peaceful, orderly, purpose-driven, theirs will not fit in anymore. They will try once, maybe twice, then vanish, because they no longer find oxygen in your presence. Your absence becomes their suffocation. Chapter 13. The unbothered soul is the final revolution. Toxic people fear one type of person above all others: the unbothered. Not the angry, not the bitter, not the defensive, but the calm. The person who cannot be touched emotionally because they've killed the roots of ego that once needed attention. You become a dead signal to their radar. They try to stir you. Nothing. They try to provoke you. Stillness. They try to guilt you. Indifference. They call it arrogance. They call it selfishness. They call it cold. But in truth, it is freedom. Seneca once wrote, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." This power is invisible. It's not in your voice, your words, your posture, but in your mind. You do not fear rejection because you do not cling. You do not fear lies because your truth stands without defense. You do not fear manipulation because you don't need what they're offering. This kind of person becomes untouchable, unshakable, unreachable. And so, the toxic retreat, not in defeat, but in confusion. They cannot break what does not bend. Chapter 14. Becoming unreachable is a spiritual act. We live in a society that teaches us to be accessible, open, constantly available. But here's the truth no one wants to say. Access is earned. Just because someone wants to speak doesn't mean you must listen. Just because someone has energy to give doesn't mean it's worth receiving. Just because someone misses you doesn't mean they deserve you. The Stoics taught us this long ago to protect the inner citadel. As Marcus Aurelius advised, you have been made for self-rule. You are your own master. What does this mean? It means you do not owe your energy to every request. You do not explain yourself to those who twist your words. You do not chase clarity from the unclear. You reserve your access for those aligned with your values. Let that become your lifestyle. And watch as toxic people vanish. They will not walk away proudly. They will slink back into shadows, afraid of the light you now carry. Chapter 15. Forgiveness without return. Let us speak of the final step. When the toxic have gone, there's one more battle left, and it's not with them. It's within. It's the temptation to carry bitterness, to replay the betrayal, to define your future relationships through the lens of pain. But we must not let them live inside us rent-free. We let them go and we forgive, not for their sake, but for our own. Seneca says, "To forgive all is as inhuman as to forgive none." We do not pretend nothing happened. We do not welcome them back. But we release the poison of hate because hate keeps the wound open. Forgiveness in our way is quiet detachment. It's not about shaking hands. It's about sealing the chapter and walking forward without dragging their memory like a corpse behind us. You forgive, you breathe, and you rise. Alone, clear, untethered. This is not weakness. This is transcendence. Chapter 16. Now you carry the standard. There is no secret formula, no single phrase, no overnight change. This transformation is gradual, brutal, beautiful. You lose things. You lose people. You lose approval. You lose your former self. But in return, you gain something eternal. Freedom. You stop apologizing for your stillness. You stop justifying your boundaries. You stop dimming your light so others feel more comfortable. And in that quiet, sovereign space, you become the type of person whose life sets a standard that toxic people cannot tolerate, a standard that lifts others, a standard that says, "I will not play small for your comfort. I will not participate in your chaos." We are not here to fix others. We are here to become so whole that others remember what wholeness feels like just by being near us. Let them avoid us. Let them call us distant, cold, or arrogant. Because the truth is, we have simply outgrown their playground. So what now? Now we walk. We walk the path of self-mastery. We commit daily to the practices that sharpen us. We rise each morning with discipline. We rest each night with self-audit. We give no power to manipulation, no time to drama, no home to guilt. Let others chase drama. Let others live addicted to approval. Let others become masters of noise. We walk silently, but that silence is the loudest thing they'll ever hear. Toxic people will avoid us, not because we push them, but because we have become immune. And now, we are free. Thank you for watching.